Being unreasonable in a Jamaican context has some negative connotations. But in our business, it's the only way that we can be.
Here is a product that was developed in Jamaica that can stand up to any other product in its category across the world and still end up on top. That was a phenomenal Jamaican story.
Unreasonable means that you're looking at a situation that you have no business being in. You should never be attempting these things, and you charge in. Not only are you charging in confident, but with style. We found people who were similarly minded, crazy people like myself, and we started a business together.
Symptai was formed fundamentally to create a different working experience for me. That was the mindset. I said, I just want to work with people that want to work how I want to work, which is just be straight, be candid in conversations, and let's just get things done, right? Ego aside, just get things done.
So when I came to Symptai, I started in November 1999. It's getting to work at 8 o'clock in the morning. We're in this very small office. So work for us was mostly about Andrew trying to sell business. The part-time guy is doing some of the consulting on with Andrew. And I've taken a responsibility for doing all of the ACL training, for providing support.
ACL was this program that allowed you to look at large volume of data. And this is in the late 90s, right? So large volumes of data is like 50,000, 100,000 records. And it allowed you to just be able to find a needle in a haystack, know that something is specifically wrong with this transaction, something is wrong with this loan. We got really, really, really good at it. And I'm not talking from a Jamaican standpoint, I mean globally, we really got very good at this. And what ACL started doing is that when Bank of Jamaica, for example, wanted to buy software from them, they would say, listen, we know this guy, he's really good at it, talk to him. And they'll call me and say, tell me what you guys are doing, or they come and visit us and see what we're doing. And that's how we started building that relationship. So we did that a few times, and then after a while, ACL would send me a check. One of the first really big customers that we got was like JPS, and JPS said, well, we can't pay an individual, so we would need to be able to pay a company. And that's when Michele and I kind of figured out, okay, we need to come up with a company name. And so Michele and I sat down and we started playing with both our names. And her maiden name was Taylor, and we started playing with the names a bit. We came up with Symptai and all that kind of stuff. And then after a while, it became Symptai. And she looked at it and said, nobody's ever going to know how to spell this. And I said, well, that's all right. We'll put meaning to it and we'll say what it is. And the thing too is that in those days, to create a company, it took at least 6 months. So we had that check almost to the point that the check was still dated before we could actually lodge it into an account. That was how long it took. We got a call from ACL in Canada saying that they got these calls from these guys in Trinidad, and they're going to ask them to speak to us, see if we could help them. I went there, and then when I walked into the boardroom, there were binders, these huge binders all over the boardroom, massive boardroom, and there were binders everywhere. And they were literally trying to go through those binders to find specific transactions or journal entries, and they just couldn't. It was not humanly possible. So they asked me how to do it. I said, okay, so we got all the data and put everything in there. And I just said, okay, so what do you want to know? They stood over your shoulder, same thing. This is what you want to know, that's what you want to know. By lunchtime, done. Everything is done.
Well, from day one, Andrew had convinced ACL to make him the regional distributor of the software. So we started in Jamaica and we were doing well. And then Andrew said, now it's time for us to take on the Caribbean. And that's kind of where my trips to Trinidad especially began. So whenever we go to a different island, we just stayed by the telephone directory and we would just identify different companies, you know, light and power company, water company, government offices, banks, and we just get on the phone and call them. And back in the day, you just call someone and say, I want to talk to the chief internal auditor. So we had the script that we'd have prepared. I want to talk to the chief auditor. We tell them about the software, what it does, and we'd say we'd like to come and meet with you, or we'd like to offer training to you. So we'd stay in Jamaica and we'd organize these open training sessions where we just get a hotel and get persons from, like 10 or 12 persons from different companies, and they would come to the hotel and we just fly in to the hotel, train them, and then we'd leave, of course, take another directory with us again. You know, it actually didn't feel that difficult at the time, because it's not like today when you take up the phone and you try to get an executive in an organization and they're shielded by 500 people and they don't know you, so they can't talk to you. Persons would just talk to you. And so it wasn't very difficult. I mean, we found out, you know, we asked clients, what are the best hotels that we could do a session at? And so I know we did a lot of focus on Trinidad and Barbados in those early days. We went into the other smaller islands as well, but it was primarily Trinidad and Barbados. So, you know, go to Trinidad, go to the Cape Park Hotel. There's different things like that. We find different hotels that we just go to and organize the sessions. The hotels pretty much provide everything and you just pay for it. We were always not shy about spending money, and we're always very concerned about doing something that's first class, you know. So we didn't really have any issues with just telling them this is what we need, and they said this is the cost. And we knew that once we had about 5 or 6 persons in an open training session, we'd make money. So once we got to 10 or 12 persons, you know, it's pretty much guaranteed.
At the beginning of Symptai, the huge success that came when Andrew and Marlon were selling ACL was their presence in the region. They sold to 19 Caribbean countries, 330 clients in a matter of a few years, because they traveled so much. They went there, they spoke to people. And I think the Eastern Caribbean really appreciates that, and that's how they do business.
Trinidad is an interesting market. It's an interesting place. We had a lot of success in Trinidad. So we had a lot of success here in Jamaica, and then we started to see that success in Trinidad. But we were only doing ACL in Trinidad, so we thought to ourselves, but we're doing IT audits here. You know, we started to get into IT security. We're doing IT security here. Why can't we do it in Trinidad? And so we started trying to find persons in Trinidad to do this with. And it was very challenging. So we'd established an office in Trinidad. We had quite a few employees there at the time, but we just could not get any traction outside of ACL. And what we wanted was to replicate what we're doing here, and ACL was just a part of it. For us, that was just what we call our business assurance services. We had IT audit, IT security that we wanted to get done in Trinidad, but we just couldn't get it sold or delivered there. So although we had the office there for quite a few years, and the office was doing well, for us, it still wasn't doing what we wanted. And Andrew and I talk about failure a lot, and we talk about failure in a lot of different contexts. Failure is a very important part of business. It's you know, I'm a reader. I read a lot, and I reflect on what I read. And it's, you know, you have chaos and you have balance. And when things are in balance, you can't really create anything. It's when things are in chaos that you're able to create something. So for us, we are proud about the fact that Trinidad didn't work, because it allowed us to focus on other areas. Because if it had worked, we might not have done some of the other things that we eventually ended up doing.
Company was doing well, and then it's like, okay, so what's next? What do we do? Consulting, you get paid according to how much time you gave the customer. So there's a certain finite resource to that, right? So as always, I come up with the crazy ideas, Marlon make it happen. That's how things work. So I said, Marlon, all the stuff that we're doing for people, and we'll go there, we'll do the same thing over and over. Why don't we just like make that be completely automated? Nobody has to touch it, nobody has to do anything. And then he says, you mean build software, our own software? And I said, yeah, we should build our own software. And all Marlon said was like, okay.
So software development, that was a business that we had no business getting into. We always had this understanding at Symptai that whatever we're doing was intended to be done globally. Because we recognized very early on that the Caribbean market was just too small for you to have the kind of financial impact that you want to have in terms of revenues. From that perspective, when we started doing software development, it was about software in multiple languages, software for the entire world. We were partners for ACL selling software in this region, and we thought, well, if we create something that is of value, those other partners could be selling what we're producing, and so we could really go to bed and sleep and make money. And that's what the goal was.
And what we did is that we went to the University of the West Indies and to UTech, and we hired a bunch of guys. No experience whatsoever. None, zero. And we brought them in. And we said, we're going to build software and we're going to distribute it all over the world. We realized that it really was working. We started releasing early versions of the product, and before you know it, we ended up with customers in Latin America, in Australia, in the Caribbean, all over the Caribbean. And we said, damn, this is not bad. This could work. And what happened after that was something that we never saw coming. This baby ate like crazy.
The problem is that the software development cycle is so long. You have to spend months developing the software before you actually can start selling it. So you're taking all this income that you're getting from a good consulting business, and you're taking this and paying developers to develop a software that you hope you're going to be able to sell. And now we are stretched from month to month. We have to do enough consulting to make enough money to deal with our consulting expenses and to pay for software development. But it's very, very exciting because we're thinking, yeah, this is gonna be it. We're gonna be able to go to sleep.
So Symptai and Simsure from the outset were always separate companies because for Simsure we had to go out and get funding. And we decided to just look all over the world for anyone that would invest. And in the end, we found a Dutch guy that lived in Trinidad with a fund there called Dynamic Equity, and his name was Jelle Schurtzma. So they became the first investor, and to do that we needed a separate structure because we had Symptai, but we didn't want to then have them investing in Symptai. We had to create a separate entity, so we created Simsure as a separate company and did it that way, and we allocated shares to people and they got shares as well and so on. So that was the reason for that.
We ended up with this, just a great software company that we were all over the place. We created a Simsure North America right in downtown Toronto in the Exchange Tower. We had like 4 Canadians working there, reselling our software, doing the marketing and everything.
It was a very emotional day at the office. Oh yeah, people were crying. I mean, you can't talk about this kind of stuff without people starting to cry. That's what it is. We're very close. We're spending a lot of time together, and then cancer comes in, and you're like, well, we're gonna lose somebody.
In my family, like I'm the youngest of 7, so everybody always have different expectations of me, and our reputation of being tough and all that kind of stuff. So everybody say, yeah, you'll be fine. But for me, the diagnosis itself was like a betrayal.
Cancer was just like an absolute surprise to me. I just couldn't believe it. I was like, this doesn't make sense. I mean, finally, I think we're kind of getting where we want to be, and this is just so far out of left field. It didn't come together in my head as to why it was happening at that particular point in time.
One of the things that they tell you when you're diagnosed with cancer is that just don't go on the internet. Well, I didn't follow that advice. So I was trying to find just one person on the internet that had the specific type of cancer that I had that lived. And not one. I couldn't find one person. And one of the things that illnesses tell you is that, boy, in the end, they'll pay any amount of money just to stay alive. So we went to Mayo Clinic and went everywhere. And we found one doctor at Mayo Clinic that says he has someone just like me that was diagnosed with the same thing, and she's alive in like 14 years. And I'm saying, yeah, I would do anything to get 14 years though.
There's a lot of emotional ups and downs, and I'm just trying to be strong and supportive and to encourage him. And he's talking about what kind of treatment he's gonna do and the options that he wants to take. And we're like, okay, well, let's get this a second opinion on this. Who's the best people that we can get this from? Doesn't matter. Let's get it done and let's decide what we're gonna do.
When I got home out of the hospital, I think that's when it really hit me that you have this amazing support. If I say I feel like I could do with a little bit of red pea soup, Nooks or Stacy or Marlon, one of them, turn up at the house, red pea soup, blend it up and pour it down my drinking tube and stuff like that, you know. It was surprising to see, and I'm not talking just from senior people, even the most junior people. They would turn up, they would ask how you're doing, all that kind of stuff. And even now, some of them can tell me how many years it is that it was since that early surgery, and how much years of survival are gone and all that kind of stuff, even when I'm not tracking it. So, immense support.
When you have a company that's knowledge-based, it's heavily dependent on people. And this is what happened to us in the space of 1 year. One of my software developers died. Immediately after that, another person in our family, we had another big tragedy. Then, later that year, global recession, 2008. Months later, I'm diagnosed with cancer. And that put us at the lowest point we've ever been. But as we thought it was dead, it was dying, and this was it. Gartner came, and Gartner looked at a company here and said, these guys are within the top 10 companies in the world doing this technology.
So Gartner is, for a lot of people who may not know, is the world's leading IT research advisor and consulting firm. With over 40,000 clients globally, multi-billion dollars in revenue. And the Magic Quadrant, I mean, there's nothing really magical about the quadrant, but for a lot of people, getting onto the Magic Quadrant is a huge deal. Now, because Gartner is completely independent and it is the world's largest and most credible research organization, once you're mentioned in a quadrant, it usually is a rubber stamp of approval. So Gartner is saying, we've vetted this company, we've done our thorough research and investigation, and we're telling you that this company is actually one that you should do business with. So that kind of validation is, a lot of companies spend their entire existence trying to end up on the quadrant because it gives you a certain level of validation. That would have been a big deal for a Jamaican company because I'm not necessarily sure that any other Jamaican company has ended up on the Magic Quadrant. For you to develop something that a company is going to say the world need to see this is a huge deal because unfortunately there's still this perception and also within Jamaica that anything that is developed in Jamaica or that comes from Jamaica is not necessarily world class. So for a company to say, look, here is a product that was developed in Jamaica that can stand up to any other product in its category across the world and still end up on top, that was a phenomenal Jamaican story. And I got really excited by that when I came across it.
When Simshore made it to the Magic Quadrant, that was like a hoorah moment for everybody, because we're all involved. I mean, I was involved in doing the demo video for Simshore, just the screenshots and doing up material. We're involved in trying to brainstorm what the name should have been. We're involved in what the logo should look like. So it was really a big moment for us when they made it. So we were very, very proud. So it was mixed emotions. We were very, very proud of the team. That was a big celebratory moment for us.
So Caseware approached us about acquiring the entire business, the entire Simshore business. I remember having conversations with them and they said, we'd like to move the operations to Canada. And I said, no, I'm not going to Canada. That's the first thing. I was like, no way I'm going to Canada. Because we're set, like in Jamaica, in Jamaican terms, they say you're set, you're pretty much set, you're good. Money, everything, you're good. You're living good, everything. No way I want to get up and go somewhere else. Michelle wasn't interested, I wasn't interested. And, after a while, we looked at it and there were people at Simshore that were younger than us, just starting their careers. This is an excellent opportunity for them. So obviously you can't be doing that. You can't be saying, oh, for your own purposes, I'm going to block this opportunity for those guys. And to be honest, I wanted to know, could I do it? Could I actually do that and take on something bigger and make something bigger of it? So incentives on both sides, but it worked out pretty well in the end.
When Andrew and the Simpson team decided to move off to Canada, it was devastating is too strong of a word, but it's a very tight family bond in terms of how we operate. So it's like a part of your family migrating and you're being left behind and you're expected to hold up the banner, the Symptai banner.
Through the years, the product that Caseware offers has grown significantly, and I mean it's now providing a lot of value in different industries for different clients. And so definitely we have grown over the years, we have changed over the years.
Since then, we have more than tripled in size. The culture is the same, we're still having fun, and we're still very unreasonable about our expectations.
It was a realization of the dream that we had, that we could make world-class software. So it was validation that we told you that we could do software development in Jamaica. We told you that we could do a world-class product, and this is validation that it is happening. So it was bittersweet.